Around the year 1177 before the Common Era, the world ended. Not in a flood, not in a war. City by city, kingdom by kingdom, across the entire eastern Mediterranean, palaces burned, trade routes went silent, writing systems were forgotten. Within roughly 50 years, nearly every major civilization in the region collapsed, and nobody has ever fully explained why. To understand what was lost, you have to understand what existed first. The Late Bronze Age was not a world of isolated kingdoms. It was connected. Egypt traded with the Hittites in Anatolia. The Mycenaeans in Greece shipped goods to Cyprus and the Levantine coast. Kings wrote to each other, addressed each other as brothers, arranged marriages, sent gifts, complained about late shipments. We have the letters, clay tablets recording diplomatic correspondence between rulers who lived 1,000 miles apart. This was a functioning international system, and it had one critical weakness: bronze. Bronze requires copper and tin. Copper was available in the region. Cyprus alone supplied enormous quantities. Tin was not. The tin came from far away, along trade routes stretching east toward Afghanistan and possibly west toward Britain. Every bronze sword, every bronze tool, every bronze plough in the Mediterranean depended on a supply chain running across thousands of miles. Cut that chain, and the entire technological base of the age fails. Then it started falling apart. The Hittite Empire, one of the great powers of the age, simply stops. Its capital, Hattusa, was burned and abandoned. The Mycenaean palaces in Greece, Pylos, Mycenae, Tiryns, were destroyed one after another. Ugarit, a wealthy port city on the Syrian coast, was burned so completely it was never reoccupied. Cities across Cyprus and the Levant show destruction layers dated to roughly the same window. Egypt survived, but barely, and never regained its former reach. And here is what makes it eerie. In Greece, writing disappears. The Mycenaeans used a script called Linear B, mostly for palace accounting. After the collapse, it is simply gone. Greece would not write again for roughly 400 years. An entire literate society forgot how to read. So what caused it? For a long time, the standard answer was invasion. Egyptian records from the reign of Ramesses III describe a coalition of sea-borne attackers, groups the Egyptians called the Sea Peoples. The inscriptions describe them arriving with their families and possessions, moving as populations rather than raiding parties. Ugarit's final letters, found baked into the ruins of the burning city, describe enemy ships appearing on the coast and the fleet being away. For decades, the story was simple. The Sea Peoples came and everything fell. The problem is that this explains almost nothing. Who were they? Where did they come from? If they were powerful enough to destroy every major state in the region, why did they not establish an empire of their own? And the most damaging question of all, what made them start moving in the first place? Modern research suggests the Sea Peoples were not the cause. They were a symptom, because something else was happening at the same time. The climate changed. Pollen cores taken from the Sea of Galilee and sediment records from across the region indicate a sustained drought beginning around the late 13th century before the Common Era. Not a bad season, a prolonged shift lasting decades. There are letters that read like a civilization watching its food supply fail in real time. A Hittite king writing to Egypt asking urgently for grain. a message noting that it is a matter of life and death. Correspondence about famine relief shipments moving between kingdoms that were, not long before, arguing about tribute. Add earthquakes. The eastern Mediterranean sits on active fault systems, and archaeologists have identified what appears to be a cluster of major seismic events in this period. An earthquake storm affecting multiple sites across decades. Now put it together. Drought reduces harvests. Famine follows. Populations start moving in search of food, which is where the sea peoples likely come from. Displaced groups on the move rather than a unified invading army. Movement disrupts trade routes. Disrupted trade cuts the tin supply. No tin means no bronze, and the entire military and agricultural toolkit degrades. Weakened states cannot defend their borders or feed their cities. Internal rebellion becomes likely, and there is evidence of exactly that in some sites. Each failure makes the next one worse. This is what researchers call systems collapse. No single cause, a cascade. The very thing that made the Bronze Age wealthy, its deep interdependence, is what made it fragile. Every kingdom depended on the others. When enough of them faltered at once, there was nothing left to hold the structure up. What followed is often called a dark age, and for once the term fits. Populations shrank dramatically, cities emptied, long distance trade nearly ceased, monumental building stopped. In Greece, the memory of the palace civilization survived only as legend, half remembered stories that would eventually become the world of Homer, written down centuries later about a world its author had never seen. But collapse is not only an ending. Bronze failed, so people turned to iron. Iron ore is common. It does not require a 1,000-mile supply chain. Working it is harder, but once the technique spread, metal tools stopped being a luxury controlled by palaces. The Phoenicians, operating in the space left behind, spread an alphabet vastly simpler than the old palace scripts, one that ordinary people could learn. The rigid palace economies that had controlled everything were gone, and what grew in their place eventually included the Greek city-states. So the world that emerged was poorer, smaller, and less connected. It was also less centralized, and in some ways more open. The uncomfortable part is what this says about complex systems in general. The Bronze Age did not fall because it was primitive. It fell because it was sophisticated, specialized, and interdependent. And it met a series of stresses arriving faster than it could adapt. The letters from Ugarit are the detail that stays with you. Clay tablets sitting in a kiln waiting to be fired and sent. The city burned before anyone could deliver them. The fire baked them hard, which is the only reason they survived at all. Requests for help from people who had no idea they were writing at the end of their world. If stories like this keep you curious, stay close. There is more buried in this channel waiting to be found.